everyone, welcome to your weekly edition of Show Me How It's Done. My name is Lauren Urbonis and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So I have a very cute fun fold to show you today. This was inspired by a fellow demonstrator called Inspiring Inking, and she did this card probably around last Christmas because I noticed she was using some of our holiday catalog paper from the 2023 holiday catalog. So I loved the idea and I thought I would recreate it using one of our online exclusive papers and show you how it's done. So if you would like to follow along, I'm going to try and go very slowly because there's a lot of moving pieces to it, lots of score marks and cutting. But it is beautiful and it's going to be a wow card that your recipient will love if you put in the time for them. So if you want to follow along, you will need your Stampin' Up! Trimmer because that has our gorgeous cutting blade and scoring blade all in one. If you don't have this, it's okay. Your work will just be a little bit more tricky on some parts, but hopefully you're still able to enjoy the card and follow along. So if you would like to make this card, you'll need a piece of basic black. It will measure 6 inches by 8 inches. Now I'm going to try and go nice and slowly and we'll get all our scoring done. So make sure your score tool is the only thing you're using right now. You might even want to take this cutting blade off if you're kind of tempted to use it or you're afraid that you'll use it and make a mistake on your project. So all of these directions, until I tell you otherwise, we are scoring. Okay, we're going to line up at the we're using the 8-inch side of the paper to start. We're lining up at 6 inches right there. And we're going to score from top to bottom. Then we're going to move all the way over to 2 inches and score from top to bottom one more time. Okay. By doing those 2 lines, we've made this line here and this line here. Now you can see it's going to get tricky because we only need this little section and this bottom section scored for the next part. So this is going to be a little fun. This is where you're going to start using this ruler that's on the side of your scoreboard or on your trimmer here. You can't see it very well because of my glare, but hopefully if it's in front of you, you will be able to see it. Okay, so we're lining up at 4 inches right here. Now from the top of your paper down to 1 1/4 right here, we are going to move our score tool down to that mark. And we're lining up the kind of tick mark that's on the side of your score tool. Don't worry about the bottom. Don't worry that that's gone past. So we've come all the way down to 1 1/4. Then we're going to lift this up and move the score marker down because we don't want any marks in the middle of this page. We went down 1 1/4 inch, so we have to come up 1 1/4. So 6 minus 1 1/4 is going to be 4 3/4. So you're coming up to the 4 3/4 inch mark. Now you have 2 little lines in the middle of your card. Sorry about any glare. I tried to play with the lighting so you could see me score on black, but I know it's tricky. You're getting blinded by silver here. Okay, we have 2 more score marks to do. The next one that I want is we're going to line up against 5 inches. And we're going to work on this score mark and this score mark. So these, you can tell, we're not doing anything in the top sections. We need to do something in this middle section. So we are going to line up at 5, plunk our score tool down just in the middle of the paper, and we're going to move it back and forth in between 1 1/4 and 4 3/4, that area that we haven't cut or done anything in, okay? So it doesn't matter whether you go down or up first. We're going to press and go down to 4 3/4, press and go up to 1 1/4. There we go. And you can go back and just make sure those lines are really nice and snug. Okay? If you've gone over a tiny millimeter, totally fine. We're covering this up with paper. Nobody's going to notice. We're moving over once more to 3 inches. And we're doing the exact same thing. So plunk it down in the middle and move up and down in between 1 1/4 down to 4 3/4. The end. Okay, when you do this yourself, now that you know what it looks like, and I would almost suggest making one of these as a template that you can just have in front of you, you can easily line it up to 6, do a score mark. Line it up to 5, do this score. Line it up to 4, do that. 3, 2. You'll be able to do those lines in sequence instead of like we did, moving the paper back and forth. But I really wanted you to see kind of the symmetry of how we were doing the card in order for you to get that sequence properly. Now we're doing some cutting, okay? Might be scary, but we're going to turn our paper around so we have this 6-inch side resting against the top. And now I'm using the numbers that are on the right-hand side of my trimmer, okay? Before we are lining up to these guys on the left. I'm going to use this section here on the right, and it doesn't matter which side you start with. We're doing the same thing to both. We're going to line it up at 1 1/4. So it's lined up at 1 1/4 on this right-hand side. And then, you know how we had these nice, tall, long lines here? Tricky to get you to see them. This guy here, that one that went all the way across, this one down here that went all the way across, we're going to cut in between them. So again, I'm bringing my blade and I'm plunking it in the middle so that I go up to the 2-inch mark. And down to the 6-inch. Can I get this any better for you? No? I don't know, it's hard to see. Okay, so you're cutting in between 2 and 6. When you lift this up, this should be loose. And we're going to flip around and do the exact same thing to the other side. So we're lining up to 1 1/4. And then we're cutting in between 2 and 6. Smack it down in the middle. Then you're not relying on it being perfect at the beginning. 2 and 6. Check. You're going to need your trimmer in the future to cut some of these layers. But for now, we're going to do our folds so that it's out of our way. Doesn't matter which side you start with, but you're going to take this right and left side panel, fold it all the way in. And I like a book. Now we've folded these in, so you've got a valley. We need to make the other 4 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, they all need to be mountains. So you're not going to be able to do a nice crisp fold at the beginning of this. You just loosely start pressing upwards. So press that section up, press its opposite up, make mountains. Make little mountains with these small sections, trying not to bend any other parts of the card. Okay. Once it's all gently folded, then you can bring this down and give a nice burnish. You can bring this and make a nice burnish. You can just kind of squish your card down to the table and burnish all the sections. This should be kind of what you have at the moment. Now we need some layers. And you're gonna hate me because there's a lot of them. But this is where I added probably more layers than you will need, okay? I decided I wanted to make this for one of my team members to celebrate one of her amazing accomplishments. So I went with silver in the back with designer paper on top. What you could choose to do, and it would look just as stunning, is just using designer series paper. So all of the measurements that I'm going to give you for my silver panels, you could just cut designer series paper out and do one layer. You don't need to have 3 layers, black, silver, designer paper. Totally up to you. But I'm going to give you all the measurements, and they are listed in the description on the ad too. So you can always pause the video and go cut these. So here we go. 2 panels in silver, right and left. I'm going to use my sheet because I don't want to mess you up. 1 7/8 by 5 7/8. And the coordinating designer series paper for those, just a tiny bit smaller. We're going to go 1 3/4 by 5 3/4. Again, definitely check out the description because all of these are written down. But if you're like me, sometimes I need the visual as opposed to just things written. So those are those 2 sections. This middle guy here, I'm going to start with the silver piece. 1, wrong one. 1 7/8 by 3 3/8. And then in the middle of that, we will need a designer series paper. 1 3/4 by 3 1/4. Okay. I'm going to squish this guy down. It's not going to hurt anything. I'll just have to fix it later. But I'm going to grab 4 of the same little rectangles here. So my silver layer is going to be 1 1/8 by 1 7/8. And you'll do 4 of them. 1 1/8 by 1 7/8. No, it's a lot. Sorry. Okay, next layer, 1 inch by 1 3/4. 1 inch by 1 3/4, and you need 4 of them. Guys are doing great. Okay, 2 more. These are the last 2.
Our show's done.
Thank you, Darius.
Yeah.
I'm filming right now. I need about 5 minutes.
Okay.
I have kids home. Okay, last one is going to be 7/8 by 3 3/8. You need 2 of them. 7/8 by 3 3/8. And the coordinating designer paper will be 3/4 of an inch by 3 1/4. Right, like that.
Could you do something while we're waiting?
Okay. Now, I'm not going to put all this together because my kids' show did not take as long as I thought it would. So, we're going to just encourage you to hit pause right now, glue all of these in place, and then come back to me when you're ready to do the next step. Okay? So I'm going to make this one a recording. You gotta love PD days. Okay. Moving that out of the way. I'm going to work and talk according to this one here, because hopefully you guys can just use a tape or a seal to put all of those in place. Okay, now you need to make this little panel here, okay? So I decided to use a piece of foil, silver foil, because I thought it was beautiful. So I'm going to cut that at 2 inches by 2 7/8, right there. And I'm going to pop it up on dimensionals. Now the easiest way to put that is just to put dimensionals in this middle section right here and pop this up. You don't want any dimensionals hitting this left or right tilted edge, because otherwise your card is not going to pop out nicely on you, okay? So put your dimensionals up, pop it into place, and it's ready to go. And a black piece right here. This is where we're adding our sentiment. So I forgot to mention where this paper came from. That's the naturally gilded 12 by 12s. I'm really sorry, guys. Theron, please close my door and leave. I'm filming right now. I will be there in a minute. Just go. Sorry. And it comes in copper, gold, and silver. So lots of potential there for you. That's the paper. The stamp set that I decided to use was Adoring Hearts, because I really wanted to use this Celebrating You sentiment, and I cut out one of the coordinating little dies here as well that I could use. That I just cut out with silver foil. We're going to do a little embossing. So if you haven't embossed before, grab that little strip of black. It's going to be 1 3/4 by 2 5/8. Now the important thing when you're embossing on black or something that typically shows smudge marks is Stampin' Up! Has this little embossing buddy, which is kind of like powder in there. You're going to rub it all over this black and it will kind of turn it white. You're going to stress. But what that does is it's picking up any extra oils on your paper so that part does not get embossed like a fingerprint. Okay? Then we've got our nice sticky Versamark ink and my Celebrating You stamp set. Stamp that in the sticky ink and stamping this right in the center of your black paper. Now in the embossing set that Stampin' Up! Has now, you will get that embossing buddy, you'll get a pair of tweezers, and you'll get a little brush. My tweezers are down in my craft room right now, and I actually have enough room on this piece to kind of hold the corner. I don't need the tweezers, but I've got my silver embossing powder. I'm gonna just dump that over the tray. And I like to turn it over and just tap, tap, tap the back, just so I get off any extras that might be clinging somewhere else. I'm going to move this out of my way so that when I use the heat tool to start embossing, I'm not going to spray all of my extra powder around. Now, you won't be able to hear me while the heat tool is going, so I'm just going to ask you to watch for when the color changes from like a powder look to something really metallic and shiny. Gold and silvers and copper are the easiest embossing powders to start with because you will instantly see a change. As soon as you start seeing the colors change, you can move on and go to the next part of the sentiment. Okay, as soon as those have all changed for you, you're good to go. You can take a little Kleenex. I forgot to bring one, so I'm just gonna grab the edge of my shirt. You can just wipe off the paper now, which will wipe off that powder, that white powder that was all over. You don't need it anymore. So paper towel or Kleenex is probably better. I just didn't happen to have one. So I've got my little celebrating you sentiment. I'm going to throw that on top of my card with a flat adhesive. And then because I thought it was super cute, I just cut out that little embellishment using the silver foil and I'm gluing it on right to the side. Okay. Again, I apologize that I think the TV just didn't go into the second episode for them because I had it scheduled for them to be done around a little about 20 more minutes still. Okay, so here's the card. Here's beautiful card. It's good to go. You've spent a lot of time, of course, adding those pieces. Where do you write? That's the question of the hour. So if you need to put a message on this card, you're going to cut one more piece of white, and that's going to go in the back of your card here. So that is going to be 1 7/8 by 3 3/8. Do not attach it to the card yet. I haven't, because it's going to be really tricky to write on once it gets attached to that card. So I'm going to write my little note and then I'm going to attach it to this backspace. If you need more writing space, you could cut side panels. Make them the same size as those silver panels. Then you have lots of writing space. But this card was just intended to be a quick little note, something fun for someone to have on their desk and kind of cheer them up. So if you don't need much, this little guy is perfect. And then there's your card. You can do this in gold or bronze if you have that package, or you could use anything else you have from your stash. So thank you for plugging along with me, and I do hope you guys have a wonderful week. If you have any questions, if I forgot to say something because I got a little distracted, I'm sorry, but I am here for you guys. You can just message me and I'm happy to clarify anything. If you have questions about any of our products, let me know, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday on another edition of Show Me How It's Done. Bye.